Good morning and welcome to the Stronger Than My Excuses show. I'm Julie Watson, your host for the pilot series for the 8 weeks. So what we aim to achieve in the show is to help micro, small and medium business as well as community organisations, charities and not-for-profits to really improve and prosper. We know the stats are that most small businesses, or 80%, will close down within the first 2 years, and we aim to try to help you not to be one of those 80%. So we're not going to just give you inspiration from this wonderful panel, but we're actually going to give you real ideas and real tools that you can take away and use yourself. First of all, I would like to do an acknowledgement to country, and we just recognise that we're meeting on the land of the Darkinjung people, and we really appreciate this and we respect them, their elders, past and present and emerging. Now I'd like to introduce my co-hosts, firstly, from the Community and Business Women's Network, which is an affiliation of the Iris Foundation, who raise awareness for suicide prevention. Sharon Burgess, welcome. And Sharon is also part of the Wyong Neighbourhood Centre and does lots of things in her community, particularly for women in business, so awesome. And next I'd like to introduce Adam. Now, Adam's business is in Budgewoi and he is the Principal Director of AJR Counselling, Coaching and Consulting. He's a credentialed mental health clinician, an NLP Master Practitioner, a psychotherapist and co-joint lecturer at the Faculty of Health and Medicine at the University of Newcastle. Welcome to the show, Adam. Thanks for being a co-host. It's awesome and part of this. So let's start, Sharon, by introducing the first of our guests.
Okay, well this morning we've got Tara Malel of Tara Malel Coaching, who's a human behaviour specialist and a high performance coach. Tara supports and empowers women in business through events, online videos, so thank you.
And I'd like to introduce Ben Mackey. So Ben Mackey is the owner of Scribe Copying, and Ben creates content for websites, social media and videos. And Ben aims to help businesses create more leads through their online media platforms. So,
welcome to you both. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's early mornings for us all, but we really know that, I know I've worked with both of you before in different ways and met you at networking, and I know how much you've got to offer in this space. So thank you very much for getting up early and joining us. And thank you to our primary sponsor, AJR Counselling, Coaching and Consulting, Adam. We couldn't do it without our sponsors, and you'll see all the sponsors coming up on the screen, so we'd love to have you as a sponsor as well. Come and talk to us. Thanks also to Philip Mampar and Gary Burgess for being our videographers and editors throughout the series.
So please like, comment and share on all your socials. We want to help as many people as possible. Also come and join in. We've got a live studio audience here this morning here at Nexus, so thanks to the Nexus team for having us and also to our live studio audience. Thanks everybody.
Every show we will have real tips and tools, and so far we've helped people overcome isolation, fear and doubt, and each week is a new topic. We hope you'll get to watch us as we grow and we get better and better at doing this too.
Yes, we are. And we think we're getting better because, look, what we are is we're real, it's raw, and we know we're going to make little mistakes. But the thing is, we are here doing this. We are all a little bit out of our comfort zone making a web TV show. But we're doing it and we're taking action. And that's the main thing that we want to get across to people. So some of the guests that we've also got coming on, who will probably all be out of their comfort zone a little, is we have the Central Coast Regional Director of New South Wales Business Chamber. We have a lawyer, a marketing consultant, a mobile banker, a colour and fashion consultant, an interior designer, an international keynote speaker, radio announcer, authors, and many more community and business people. So we're really looking forward to having them on the show. It's going to be great.
Okay, and today our topic is guilt. You can't help others until you help yourself.
Yes.
And remember, we're online from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the day of the broadcast. And this means that you can ask questions and we can respond to you very, very quickly.
Yes, which is going to be great. And please ask questions, share. We really want you to share as much as possible so that we can help as many small business and community organisations as possible. So we're going to move on to our questions now. And first of all, why do we feel so guilty when we are working on ourselves or on our business? So I'm going to start with Tara. First of all, if we had a job, it would be easy and it's okay. We can spend that time at work. But when we run our own business, what happens is we just don't seem to give ourselves that same, our own time, that same value. Why this guilt, Tara?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want to say I work with a lot of women, and this type of guilt is something that I see all the time. So my answer is going to be in terms of the experience that specifically women and mothers in high-powered careers or businesses, what they experience. So I want to make that really clear because I know a lot of people who may not identify as female or who aren't mothers will also relate to a lot of these. It's a very human experience, and so I want to say that's okay. This is a universal experience that we have.
Sure is.
Now there's two reasons really that we feel this guilt. First is we don't prioritize our own needs. In fact, we prioritize everyone else's needs over our own. So our kids, our partner, even the house, right? We prioritize the laundry over us. It's crazy, right?
Yes,
It's absolutely
absolutely.
crazy. So we prioritize everything over our own needs. And then the second part to this is we feel we have to meet all of the needs all at once. And we tend to focus on what we're not doing. So an example of this is when you're with your children and you're meeting their needs, you focus on, well, I'm not meeting the needs of my clients or my business.
Mm-hmm.
Same when you're working your business. You are not meeting the needs of your partner. So we tend to focus on what we're not doing, and we have this ridiculous expectation that we can do it all at the same time.
Yes, yeah.
So then the guilt comes up.
It's a bit of a lose-win. instead of a win-win.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So it's where our focus is and what we prioritize.
It is.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ben? Have you had the guilt or have you seen it in business with?
Well, I mean, I haven't really had the guilt myself, but I do agree with Tara to an extent that we're encouraged to put sort of everybody else ahead of ourselves. So, especially if you're starting out in business, I wouldn't say it's confronting, but it's a little bit, you kind of have to change the mindset a bit and get over this idea that there's something wrong with that. And then, I mean, there can be things from childhood or certain attitudes that you have maybe towards personal success, towards money. I mean, and that takes a lot of backtracking. Or it could be the environment that you hang out with, you know, and I've spoken about this, as you know, in the past, about
That's right.
the people that you surround yourself with. You know, there can be people who don't have your interests at heart, that maybe want to sabotage what you're trying to do. So you've got to be very mindful of that.
It's all mindset, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's all contributing to that mindset that you
That's right. So I think you've got to ask yourself, first of all, why am I feeling guilty and where is that coming from? And that could take, a while to get to the root cause of it, but you have to get rid of it. Otherwise, you're never going to reach your full potential and you'll get to sabotage your own success.
Yeah, we will address a bit of that in a moment.
Yeah.
So where do you see guilt coming up in?
Yeah, I with, as Ben said, you know, the people who you surround yourself with, and I think often it's a lot of self-limiting beliefs. We believe a lot of what we're told a lot of the time, and I guess one of the things that came to mind when you were talking about that was like thinking about parents, especially when they've been in workforce or something, that you have to work hard to make money or to make a living, and that's not necessarily true.
No.
But we do actually put, as you said, prioritise our other things in our life rather than prioritising ourselves. I know I'm guilty of it too, and I'm curious as to why I do it sometimes, especially when I try and change my mindset a lot. But it's a good thing to notice. So I think, you know, those self-limiting beliefs of that, you know, you have to get everything else done before you put your own needs first. But in reality, we need to put ourselves first. So we can provide value in our business.
Yeah, it's that flow-on effect as
Yeah.
well. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yes, and you've talked about this before
Mm.
with other topics that we've had, which is exactly what you're saying. Always seeing the bad and not seeing the good.
That's
and
right.
you've mentioned that before, and it's really important, isn't it, that we look for the good.
Yeah.
Sharon, where have you experienced guilt, or have you seen it with other people? How has that affected?
Well, personally, just recently, you know, my daughter's saying, "Mum, you're always on the computer. You're always working," and you just have to take the time to just think, no, I can't be selfish. There's other people that live in this house too that needs my time, and you just have to learn to prioritise and just make sure that you put your family first. And
Because it does start to make you feel guilty.
oh, absolutely,
Yes,
And also know that there's a time and place
Yeah.
for everything. So again, I work with a lot of women who say, oh, but my kids, but I've got to do this. And you go, well, how are you setting boundaries?
Yeah.
How are you setting boundaries around what you value? So
yes.
it's understanding, and most people do not consciously craft their values.
They
So I'm
don't.
talking, what is your top 5, top 10 values, and then set some boundaries as to how you're going to live or play out those values. And boundaries around our time is so important. So then you can say to your children or the people around you, go, I have set this time, this half an hour, this 3 hours, this 4 hour block where I am working, where I'm behind the computer. And then it's going to be your time. So your time is coming, it's just not right now.
Yes.
Yeah, and once you've got that really clear, then it does mitigate some of the guilt, because you know in the future you have set time for those other needs that are coming up.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Prioritise.
Yeah, and they all work together then to give you balance. And so, Ben, and this brings us to our second question, which is moving on to what are some of the benefits of having personal development. And I'm just wondering what Ben might think about this. Why do we need to separate this business time from everything else? How does that work for you, separating your time and having the balance?
It's very important because when you separate business time from personal development time, it gives you a chance to recharge, and you actually open yourself up, maybe not to receiving some amazing kind of revelation, but just so many times, like I've just taken time out, maybe spent a week away or something, or just gone for a bike ride or anything like that, and then I'll get this little idea, just something to do with my business. And like I said, it's not kind of it's not a road to Damascus moment or something, but it's just it's one little, I could do this.
Because you're relaxed and you can
That's right. And so it might seem counterproductive to go and do that, because especially I know that with social media so prevalent these days. I mean, I don't have an issue with Gary Vee in this instance, but he's always talking about the hustle, man. You got to do the hustle. And I spoke about this earlier this year with a guy that I was doing an interview with on my YouTube channel, but just talking about this phenomenon, what we call struggle porn. This idea that if you're not, if you're not on the verge of having a breakdown, you're not working hard enough.
Yeah, it's
And it's counterproductive. You need to take time out. And even though it might seem counterproductive to do that, that's actually how you give yourself the best chance at being as productive as possible, at reaching your full potential, but also importantly being as content as possible. You have to be content with what you're doing. And sometimes you need to take time out to think about it.
Yeah.
And you may realise that what you're doing, it's not for you, and you've got to change that. But you have to do that, because in either physically or spiritually, it's going to kill you in the long term.
Yes, and I'll get you to reiterate what I'm about to say, is that that comes down to a bit of self-respect as well.
Yeah.
Quite often we don't have that, and the trouble with that is we're pandering a bit too much to our children or other things, and then our children are seeing us as potentially even weak, because we're not setting the boundaries, we're not giving the rules, and we're not giving them the strength and the guidance they need. And so instead, we're just pandering, so they see us almost as weak, and then they become the same. They're not strong, they're not, and it all just works in that terrible cycle. So, yeah.
It just made me think, I don't remember who did the original, but back in the 90s there was that Ugly Kid Joe song, Cats in the Cradle, all that, and it's talking, and it kind of goes through the timeline of like the father who's just always busy doing this and this and this and doesn't have time for his kids, and then his son grows up and doesn't have time for his father, and it really it illustrated what you were just talking about then, that you have to, your business isn't just something you should be thinking about every moment you wake up, because otherwise everything else in your life is going to suffer. It has to be, you have to look at everything, because looking at everything, like looking at yourself as a whole personal development, that is actually going to be better for your business. And the irony is it's actually going to make you more effective and more productive, whatever
And
you
that's
do.
right. And I think that's what Sharon was alluding to with the boundaries, setting the boundaries, that you had to start setting those boundaries in your own
Yeah,
home
absolutely.
to make it work for you. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too, we get stale as well, so we need to go away and have a little holiday, and then you get your fresh ideas and
Yeah.
things like that. And there's times when you just say, no, I just need to put it down. We're not doing this anymore.
Yes.
So
Yeah, it's really important. And I know that from the last the last show that we talked about risk. It's not until you're on the cusp of risk and you take some risk, and it's got to be qualified. But that's where life happens, and it's the same thing with your boundaries and with your all of your other roles. You're a mother, you're a grandmother, you're a friend, you're a daughter, you're a colleague, you're an employee or an employer. All of those things you have to look at where you are and balance that out across your life, and then set those boundaries for each of those roles, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And once you say, it might be a bit risky because I need to, I'm putting too much time into this area and not enough into this. And the risk is that that person may feel like they're losing out on your time, but you have to do that to show strength. And then you can become much more, that's where really life happens for everybody, because they see your strengths and suddenly go, oh. And I saw that with my son.
Yeah.
He noticed that in me when I finally took action and started doing things, and he went, oh,
Yeah.
good on you, Mum.
Also to add on to Ben's point of having that personal development, having that time out, it actually moves us from one part of the brain to the other. So we have this, when we're in our business, we're in our thinking brain, we're in our doing, right? In that hustle. But that's not where ideas are born. Ideas, innovation, creativity do not happen in that part of the brain.
No.
So to have a long shower, go for a walk, take time out to do other activities moves you into that creative side of the brain. And that is how you will move your life, your business, your relationships, anything forwards when you're in that creative
That's
side.
right. And
Yeah,
can
it's
you
really
add to that?
Yeah, I totally agree, Tara.
Yeah.
I've just completed the EMDR training in Melbourne, and it was really interesting how being able to access left brain, right brain, which is what we do a lot of anyway, but to actually put that into practice and looking at, like, when you're stuck in one thing and you're thinking about one thing, you're in that network. And you've got to find that other network and bring it in and mesh it together. And it is like actually taking a day out, a day off, and going out to even look at a rock or something. That's when you become your most creative.
Yes.
That's when ideas start to flow.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's vital work.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That is,
Yeah.
yeah. I just want to move on to some ways that we can really work on this and tell people some tips. So what are some ways that we can force ourselves to put a higher value on that quality time that we need for ourselves and not have a guilty feeling for self-development or even for our business? And Sharon, I was going to ask you if, you're so busy, how do you balance your time? What do you do?
lots of planning, lots of lists, but that's okay. Lists are a good thing.
Yes, they are.
And you need really good time management skills. So
Yeah.
because there has to be a balance. You have to have time for your family. You can't just be work all the time. And like with one job I do 3 days a week, and one job I do 1 day a week. So if there's phone calls that come through for the 3 day a week job, then I'll just return them when I get back to work on the Monday. On the next day, it's
That's
just you have to prioritise and balance, and you just have to. In the past, I'd be ringing them all on my day off and things like that, but you can't do it because
No, you have to put it into its right slots, and then you can feel comfortable that you're balanced, and then you can go home and have your home time.
exactly.
Yeah. How do you guys balance? Ben?
Well, I've got it all organised. Long story short, I break, any given year I break up into quarters. So every 3 months, I time at the start of every new season. I'll take a day out and, I'll maybe go down to Sydney, just ride my bike all day, and then I'll go, all right, this is what I want to accomplish over the next 3 months. And I have a whole bunch of categories, a bunch of different areas, and personal life, a few different areas professionally. And so I'm just always keeping track of where I'm at. So that you don't get to this point where it's like, it's been a year and all this has happened or all this hasn't happened, and you're micromanaging it a little bit. And I do that every week as well myself. Like for me, Mondays are great, and I've written about this before. Mondays I find, and I obviously would like, if you're a business owner, you have the luxury of being able to set your own day. But Monday for me is always the day where I go, all right, looking down the barrel of the next 7 days, what I want to accomplish professionally, what I want to accomplish personally, what I get done the last week, and that really sets everything else up moving forward. And that takes me maybe 2 hours to do that.
Yeah,
That's just 2 hours, and the rest of my week is set.
that is so good.
I can't believe it. Like,
Motivates organisation.
Yeah.
And most people will do that for their business or for their home, but not putting them together.
I
and
just
going,
combine it both.
how do I do this? Yeah,
I just combine it both.
to get the balance.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, because like I said, what you do in one thing affects the other, and things that you learn, just even in your free time, can actually impact how you think about going about business, whatever it is you do. It's just funny where you get little revelations.
So that planning
Yeah.
is really going to affect your mindset.
No, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Tara?
So like I said before, I really encourage everyone to outline their values. What are your top 10 values? So is it family? Is it business? Is it networking? Is it education? So for me, in fact, family is in my top 5, but it's the 5th one. It's not the first one, because the way I craft my values is education and impact are at the top. And I know when I am educating, when I am being educated, then that's going to have a ripple effect onto my family. So it's like this morning, I put boundaries and plans in place because my family had needs for this morning, but I knew how important this was as well. And this is one of my top values.
Yes.
So it's knowing your values and consciously putting a plan in place to make sure that you're always living according to those values. That keeps you in alignment. So it just naturally negates any guilt or any doubt or anything that you might be, any negativity that you might be feeling around it.
I'll take that as a
Important.
compliment too. As a priority. Yeah, what about you, Adam?
Yeah, look, one of the things that I think about a bit is to, we often look at our professional life, but also our personal development. And I mean, my kids have left home now, so I don't have any kids at home, which is kind of nice because I can do more stuff with work, I guess. But what I find I do is actually look for courses that are a little bit out of my scope of my business, because it gives me more creativity. So things that may help, I guess, the course that I just did over the weekend was higher self therapy. And it was just about looking, inwards at yourself and being in touch with your higher conscious and your own self, and really kind of like some meditation and all that sort of thing, which really helps you to become centered and in alignment. And if you're in alignment, well, then you can align your values in a much better way too.
Yeah.
So
That takes me to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you've read that, anybody? That is amazing, because they talk about being principle-centered, and it goes back to what Tara was saying. So, who are your priorities? Your friends, your family, as you're a mother, you're a daughter, you're a colleague, all of those things, and you have to prioritise. But you really, rather than being, family-centric or work-centric, you really need to be principle-centric or centred, because that brings you right back to balance across everything. And I really worked on that with planning in my calendar. I look at what my roles are, what do I have to do for my family, for my colleagues, and I put it all in there. And then I put in my appointments, and then I see what time I've got to do everything that needs to fit into that calendar. And it really works well for me to do that. How do you work that, Sharon, with your balance?
Yep, lots of planning.
Yeah,
Need to prioritise.
prioritise.
Time management. So yeah.
We've got to be good at time management. Yeah, and trust your gut is something that Adam taught me. And I think the Deputy Mayor mentioned that last week. She said you must get back when you're concerned about something and you've got a knot in your tummy, then you really have to go, what are my core values here? What is it that I should be doing? And sometimes the hard decision is the right one, and you just have to make the call. Imagine being, she was mayor for 2 years, so that would be not easy. And I've seen the Empowered Businesswomen's video last night. That was about guilt as well. It was fantastic. So it's another place people.
It's a big topic. It's a big topic.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But now I just want, if we can all just have a go at giving 20-second little quick tip for a tool that people can take away and use to stop feeling guilty and start putting that productivity and balance into their life. How would you go? What's it?
I'd start with 3 words, and I've written about this before in a blog article of mine. But my 3 words are make a decision. Once you work out what you want, you just. It might sound a little bit woo-ish, and I will keep this short, but you just got to go, all right, this is what I want, and then set yourself towards that. And once you've worked out what it is, I have another 3 words, which is whatever it takes. Unless there's a major red flag that comes up or a reason you have to change direction, just decide that when you make that decision that you'll do whatever it takes to get there. And there's more than one road to the Holy Grail, so whatever happens, you may go back into the workforce for a while, but whatever. And that will set you on your path, and everything else will fall into place over time, and you'll realise the things you need to realise.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, after you've worked out your values, we talked a lot about prioritising and scheduling our time. I love Trello. There's a lot of online scheduling and planning tools, so I highly recommend you go out and get yourself some kind of scheduler, whether it's a physical one that you write on or it's digital, but I love Trello. It really helps me to prioritize, see what do I have to do, and then prioritize that to-do list and then schedule that time in. Yeah.
I'd like to kind of set your intention. I set an intention every morning, because energy flows where intention goes.
Yes.
So if you set your intention of what you want to achieve that day, and pay attention to that intention, you'll often find openings that are probably already there, but you're more open to actually
And aware of it.
So and they come from lots of different places. I find that I didn't expect. So set the intention of what you want to achieve that day, or what you want to find.
I do that with my kids actually.
Yeah. All the time. It's a great way.
Yeah, they always want a surprise day. We set some high standards.
Yeah.
And Sharon,
Yep, definitely need to plan, have your to-do list, and just make it happen.
make it happen.
Yep.
Well,
Make it happen for yourself.
yeah. And I've got 4 words, which is I can do this. Written left-handed, we all have it with the opposite hand. But I will say that has to come from a win-win attitude, because when you have win-lose, then you're always winning, other people are losing. It doesn't work in the end, because eventually those people will leave. They don't want to be around you anymore because you're always fighting to win. If it's lose-win, you're always losing so that everyone else around you can win, and you end up feeling down all the time. But if you look for win-win, which means you have the compassion to listen to other people, but you also have the courage to speak up and say what your needs are. And when you balance compassion and courage, then you become confident and you're making the right decisions. And quite often to do that, your 4 little words, I can do this, and then that switches your brain, and you can start to really then look at your anchor thoughts for what you want, which is not guilt, but a positive thing instead. So, look, it's been wonderful. Thank you all for joining us. Although we're here to offer support on mindset, we do want to make sure that if you're in need of any urgent help, that you call Lifeline on 13 11 14. And thanks again to our sponsors, AJR Counselling, Coaching and Consulting as our major sponsor, and all of our other sponsors on the screen today. And thank you to our film crew as usual. Yes, so
Live audience.
yes. And the thank you.
Okay, so watch next week. Our topic will be receiving and giving inspiration. It's a 2-way street, and we're going to welcome Jenny Darbin, owner and principal of Interior Design, interior designer from Gender Interior Design, and we're also going to have the lovely Carol Campbell. And Carol's will be with us on confidence through fashion. So
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that one.
I know, they're 2 amazing
Yeah,
ladies, and
they
they've
are.
both got really good stories to tell about being stronger than their excuses, so that's fantastic. So,
That's good.
yeah.
And remember, you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, the IGTV page, and you can also listen on podcasts. So please ask a question, leave a comment, share the show. You share it with somebody you know who will benefit from it, or simply just like it so you can support us and keep this going.
Yeah, thanks. Well, thank you again to our guests, Ben Mackey. Couldn't do this without Sharon Burgess. And we'll see you all next week. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.